What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Thee CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? As everyone knows, we are currently living in an unprecedented time in history in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. Together is how we defeat this invisible enemy. CrazyFaceUno has made the very easy decision to send 100% of our online sales and donations to help aid in this crisis. We're going to be kind of revealing a few more details as we have that and who we're going to be giving that money to. But if you feel the urge, or if you would like to contribute to that, check out CrazyFaceUno.com. There you can donate. You can buy mugs and a few different items from our online store. Check it out. I want to say thank you so much if that's something you decide to do. With that said, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to welcome back to the show, Monica Vigo. Welcome, Monica.
Hi.
I'm trying to turn the music down. I am so happy you actually kind of reached out to me and were like, hey, I've got some materials I want to share with people. And I was like, awesome, let's do it. And so we've got today, for those of you, if you haven't checked out our podcast in the past, Monica Vigo is an elementary school teacher, special education teacher in Washington, D.C. schools. And so you've kind of put together some materials that we're going to be sharing on the blog and kind of posting for parents and kids and some different tips and strategies and ideas and whatnot. And we just want to make those available to everyone. And I'm excited to kind of dive into that. Monica, why don't you kind of fill us in? I know I kind of jumped in there, but fill us in on kind of what your life looks like today. Let's hear what you got to say.
So I'm sure like everyone, or I hope like everyone, I'm hunkered down at home.
Yeah.
I'm still in DC. My family's in Florida, so that's a little stressful, but everyone's healthy and okay so far. Doing a lot of virtual hangouts and virtual happy hours.
Yeah, right? I know. I did the same thing with my buddies from college and whatnot. We jumped on the hangouts, the Facebook or the FaceTime groups or whatever, and had a couple cocktails and chatted about life and saw each other's families and kids and,
It is funny. I do feel a little more connected since being in quarantine.
Yeah. It's a little more purposeful. Right.
I don't know if it's because we're all, like making the time to do it, or if we just have the time to do it now, but it's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. What, when did you get sent home?
I feel like all of my days are blending together, but
yeah, that's kind of how I think most people feel too. So.
Last week was technically spring break for us. They moved it up a month.
Yeah.
To give teachers kind of time to figure out what distance learning is going to look like, and to give the district some time to help support us in that. That's
a smart idea. I like that.
Yeah. Because we got sent home. We went to school that Friday, and then Monday we were closed, and we've been closed since. So without that, we would have just had the weekend, and I would have had no idea what to tell my families. Yeah. So I'm really glad that they gave us that week.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about some of the challenges. I know specifically for you working in special education, there's different challenges, but just as in education as a whole, when we send children home and we send families and we kind of shut down, that system, it creates a whole nother, I don't know, there's a bunch of different flags that kind of pop up, and things that kind of issues that arise as we look at the situation as a whole. And from, kids that maybe don't have the best home life, and school is actually a really great place for them to kind of get away from that and to have that support and the love and care that they want and need and deserve. To schools providing for a large chunk of food services and I don't know, I'm sure you have some more, but how has that affected you? How does that affect your mindset as you think about your kids, or just as a whole of the education system?
Yeah, so the two that you mentioned are the big ones for
Yeah.
me. And how it affects the parents too. Like, a lot of the parents are working still from home, or some of them work in food service, so they're still some of those essential jobs, and now they're worrying about what to do with their students all day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hard for me to piece together, because I'm such a helper and I want to be able to help.
Yeah.
And then DC at least has been doing a good job with meals. DCPS has opened their meal locations to all students, so they don't even have to be DCPS students.
That's great.
Where they can pick up, a shelf life, or a breakfast that doesn't have a shelf life, like, it lasts for long, and lunches. And then there's a bunch of other food options that have made meals free for kids. So I think there's a lot of options out there, but the issue is getting that information out to parents and making sure that they know that it's out there and that they can get to it.
Yeah. And I feel like, pardon me for jumping in, but I feel like that's been, from what I've seen, I'm not involved and I haven't really done extensive research on who is and who isn't, but it seems like as a whole, across our country at least, that is something that, people have stepped up big time for the schools and kind of provided and helped with that. I know I've seen so many posts about different school districts and different schools doing similar things where they're creating an assembly line for people to pick up meals by drop off. It's like literally handing it to you in your car and you're moving on. And I think that's huge. It's cool. And just the adjustment, I think that is really beneficial. I still, unfortunately, it takes a while to kind of get over some of the dividedness, I think, that our world and our country has kind of created over the many years and gotten to where we are. But it's really beautiful to see people step outside of, those things and say, hey, we got to come together and we got to work together.
Right.
And that's kind of what I mean. Like, it's together. We're all in this together, whether you're heeding the advice or doing what you're supposed to, we're still in this together,
Right.
And that is how we defeat this is we work together and we do the best that we can for one another. And we finally look at the humanity and people as a whole and say, man, you matter. And we've got to do what's best for everyone. And I hope that, and I think that, that is being done. And I hope it continues.
Yeah, I agree. If nothing comes of it, this is I don't want to downplay the situation that's happening. It is really important, and it can be scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if anything good comes from it, it is that we are all united in it.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't pick and choose who it's going to hit. So we're all, in the same boat.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Monica, let's jump into the materials that you've kind of provided. Go ahead and kind of talk about some of that, and let's go from there. I'm going to pull it up myself as we talk.
Yeah. So of course, this has been a topic that is number one on my mind, is what is distance learning? How is it going to look? How am I going to support my kids and my family through it?
Of course.
But I also have a lot of friends who have school-aged children at home. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hearing not only from my classroom families, but from them, the challenges from a parent side.
Right.
So I wanted to digest that and kind of offer support in some simple steps of ways that hopefully we can make it easier for parents to work from home and also set their students up for success,
of course,
for distance learning. So a lot of the things I was hearing is, I'm on a conference call and my kid comes busting in asking for snack, or I'm, you've heard the stories like that too, or my brother was like, I don't know how you do it. He asks me so many questions and he already knows the answer, and it's
Yeah.
just funny.
It's it's a real thing, and I think it's kind of cool in some ways just to see, it's the things that maybe at one point in time you'd go, man, that's really unprofessional, and now you go like, hey, this is life, right? This is real life. This is what we deal with, and my favorite thing is the switching, my dog or my pet or children to my coworker, and those different things. They're hilarious. They're the best.
Yeah, they are funny.
Absolutely.
So I just want to lay, before we even get into the nitty gritty, I do want to say, parents, whatever you're doing a great job, because this is hard work.
Yeah.
Like you're not teachers. Some of you might be, or have teachers in the house, but the majority of parents who are working from home now with their school age kids are not teachers.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing, just give yourself grace and know that you're doing a good job.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, hit us with number one.
Okay. So the first step for working from home with kids is to develop a consistent schedule. And it doesn't need to be anything extensive or anything like super built out, but just something visual that kids can see so they know what they're doing and then what they're going to do next. Because that predictability can ease stress for not only the student, but also the adult.
Yeah.
And then if they have a visual schedule, it can also help them become more independent so that they're not asking you what they're doing next or saying like, okay, I finished this math sheet, now what? They can kind of look to their schedule and say, okay, after I finish my math sheet, then I get a break, or after I finish my math sheet, then I go on the computer for a little bit.
Right. I think this is huge for everyone. And I know it's geared towards kids or parents, but I have a feeling, if there's anybody that's ever gone from, I don't know, for me, I work from home, right? I do this, mm-hmm. I do this from home. I'm operating CrazyFaceUno from my home, and it's the first time I've ever done something like this, and this is something that's been huge for me and actually pretty difficult to actually create and come up with. So, creating that consistent schedule of being like, all right, I'm working from home. I've got that flexibility, but I'm still going to get up at this time, and I'm still going to make sure I do this in the morning and kind of game plan. So I think this, number one, especially, I 100% echo for children, especially, in your specialty with special education, mm-hmm. that consistent schedule is huge, but even just for us as adults, and it just helps pass the time. It helps you make things more productive and just stay sane in some ways. It's just creating that pattern or that habit that you have. It's awesome.
A lot of teachers are sharing their classroom schedules and asking families to adapt it as needed.
Yeah.
So listeners with school-aged kids can ask their teachers for that. But I shared a sample schedule that I think you were going to put on the blog. So they can also grab that and tweak it as they need. You could just print it out and put it up. It's pretty much geared for elementary school kids, but just something to look at for even your middle and high schoolers so that you can kind of see time chunks and stuff.
Absolutely. And for anybody listening right now, go visit crazyfaceuno.com. Slide down towards the bottom. It's the CrazyFaceUno blog, and you'll see this illustration. If you would like, and I haven't checked with you, but I'm assuming it's a PDF, but if you would like us to send that directly to you for more printable friendly version, let me know. We can do that as well. But, just reach out to me. Right below the blog is a way for you to message me. You can email us. You can shoot me a text on our Google Voice number, give us a call, and we'll make sure we get that to you. So
cool.
Number two.
Yep. Second step is to set up a check-in time. So once you have developed that consistent schedule, you can write it on the schedule.
Yeah.
You can just verbalize it to kids, but set a visual timer. I have some apps that I'll tell you about in a second to help with that.
Cool.
But set a visual timer for, depending on the age of your child, younger kids, set it for a little less. Older kids, you can set it for more. 5-10 minutes, and say, I'm going to check in on you when this goes off, and by that time you should have this done, or when I come check on you is when you can ask me questions.
Yeah.
Just to kind of create that boundary of you're working and I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to ask you, when can I talk to you, or when are you going to come, because they have that visual. Or if they do, then you say, check your timer. So some of the apps that I use at school, there's a really cool app that my second graders love. It's called Hatch. And it's purple in the App Store. And what it is, it's like a little alien that's in an egg. And you set the timer for anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour.
Cool.
And as it counts down, the egg will hatch at the end, and they'll get this creature that they get to keep in their zoo. So it's kind of like it has a gamey aspect to it.
Cool. I'll add these in as you go too. So Hatch, these will be made available, and I'll try to have that information I'll add that into the blog post so that people can easily have the names of these. But Hatch is the first one.
Yep, Hatch is one, and the other one, I think it's just called Visual Timer.
Yep.
I'll double check that. But it looks like a timer counting down with a picture of a rubber duck in the middle.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all it is. You set a picture, and it'll count down the time, and then when it goes off, it'll play a sound, and then that's it. Both of those apps are free.
Awesome.
In the App Store. I haven't checked on Android, but I'm pretty sure they're also available there.
This could be another thing that I just thought of. That's another resource, and I think that you'd probably be the best one to ask how to exactly do this. But for parents out there with maybe their kids are using iPads to do some of this work, or you've set your phone up, your iPhone or whatever it is up, your iPad up with this visual timer with the Hatch or visual timer. It's very easy for children to be sneaky and change those. But there is ways to lock your screens.
Yes.
Would you mind walking us through maybe that if you can?
Sure.
Audibly?
So the Countdown app with the one that has the rubber duck, you can actually, there's a setting to hide the controls from kids when they're looking at the timer. Mm-hmm. So they won't be able to push the button to change the time. It'll still be there, but they can't. It's grayed out, so they can't hit it.
Yeah.
Hatch doesn't have that ability, but if you're doing it on the iPad, if you triple click the home button, it'll lock the screen. And then it requires the password too. Yep. So. Of course, if they know the password, then they'll be able to unlock it. So you just might want to change that. I ran into that issue in the classroom.
Yeah, for sure.
Had to change the password, but
that it's a simple way, if you're having trouble. And I love the time, setting up a time, because this is a great way if you have a conference call for, X amount of time. Like it's a great way to set up your kids so that you can make the time that you need to, for this specific instance with setting a time. And it's great just to set with your schedule, like you mentioned. And I'm excited for a couple, I know you've got some things I think we can tie back into number 2 down the line here as well. But that's a really good one.
Because I don't know if you've ever, I had this feeling as an adult. I was at the doctor's office and they were running a test, and I had to be still for an amount of time that they didn't tell me. Yeah. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. I was like, I'm never going to be able to move again. I have to move right now. I have to talk to the doctor. So I immediately was like, oh my goodness, this is how kids feel.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you can imagine, you just tell your kid, okay, here, sit and finish this worksheet. They're like, okay, but how long do I have to do this? Right. And everything at school is timed. So they're used to that.
Well, I love, part of my workout routine or, my gym time, I usually spend at least 20 minutes in the sauna when I go. And your phone, I wrap my phone up in my towel because it gets too hot. So I don't look it, but I set a timer so it'll go off and, it hits my headphones or whatever. And but I tell you what, sometimes knowing that I set that timer for 10 minutes, for halfway through, and I'm like, goodness sakes, like, have we reached that 10 minutes yet? It feels like an eternity. And yeah, it's totally true. And then you look at it and you're like, there's still 3 minutes left. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm dying here.
Yep.
Yeah, like 15 seconds can feel like literally an eternity.
Yeah. Kids also, they also like to beat the timer. So if you're having a hard time getting them to accomplish a task or finish something, I'm sure parents have already figured out this hack, but you just say, I wonder if you can get it done in less than a minute, and they'll immediately jump to it more times than not. And I teach
pro move.
Yeah, I teach a class of students with behavior disabilities, and they still, as soon as I'm like, I don't think you can get it done in 2 minutes, they'll immediately jump to it.
Shoot, that's like innate within all of us, It's like, you tell me if I can't get it done in 2 minutes. I'm like, please, watch this. hold my LaCroix,
Right. Cool.
Sweet. What's number 3?
Number 3 is to create a designated workspace for kids. So wherever that is in your house, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just a space where they know that when they're in that space, they're there to work.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, when they're in their classroom, they have their desk or they have their table, wherever they are. That's their sense of, that's their office. So you give them that space, and even if it's a piece of, like, a cushion on the couch or whatever it is, and then you make sure that in that space they have whatever they're going to need. So they have their pencils, they have their binders, their books, their papers, whatever they need for that day, which also will limit the questions of, Mom, where's a pencil? Or, Mom, I don't have this, I can't find that. So that you're not spending your work time looking for those things, and they're not, that's the number one move kids do when they're trying to procrastinate.
Yeah.
Is, I don't have a pencil, or, I can't find my book.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, set up a space that they know that they're there to work, and that they have all of their stuff there too, and then hopefully they'll kind of give you your space as well.
Right.
And then they can also have ownership over that space. It could be another place that you say, the night before, what are you going to need for tomorrow? Let's get it ready. Because when you think about, as adults, when we're getting ready for work, I lay out I pick out my outfit the night before. I get the stuff ready for breakfast that I need.
Right.
And we do these things almost on autopilot. But I think we forget that kids need to be taught that this is a strategy that they can use.
Absolutely. And I think this is, if you adults that are listening, or parents that are listening, if you haven't done this yourself and you're working from home and you haven't created a designated workspace, I highly encourage you to do it. Your productivity is going to go straight out the roof. It's going to go much higher than what you are than if you just sat on the couch with your laptop in your lap and you do your work, I've noticed this is just from me personally, again, coming from home. It's super easy to sit down at the couch and plop my computer down on the coffee table and sit on the floor or whatever and do work and have some sort of noise in the background, whether that's on TV or, whatever it is. But I'm not as productive. And creating that space, if you notice it even in yourself of how much more productive you are, our kids are the same way, and kids are the same way. They need that space, and I love that. It's also, when you're at your wit's end and you're trying to get your kids ready for bed or whatever it is, when there's like this ambiguous time and thing that's going on in the world right now, it's a great way to kind of set that routine at the end of the day, kind of going back to number 1 of saying, all right, this is the time that's set aside. We're going to get ready for the next day. You're going to make sure you have your pencils, your work ready, followed by brushing your teeth, whatever, your normal routine. But it's a great way to kind of like wind your kids down and getting ready.
Yeah. And then it'll help will help them make the jump to also working from home, because our kids haven't had to do this before, I would venture to say. So it could be hard for them, like, well, I'm at home, why do I have to do homework? Or I'm at home, why is my teacher telling me to do stuff? So also having a conversation with them about, I don't know how long this is going to last, but for now, we're both working from home. And so you can even give them a choice. Where would you like to work? You can work here or you can work there. That forced choice.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
You can also do that with the schedule. You can develop a schedule with them and give them choices. We call it forced choice in education, which is you present them with two options that you are okay with. And then it gives them the illusion of control. So
it's a game changer.
Right. Do you want to do your math before lunch or after lunch?
Yeah.
And either way, you as the adult, you're fine with whatever they choose. But they think like, oh, I get to make my schedule, and they take ownership of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to number 4.
Number 4 is incentivizing staying focused and completing tasks, which is something that I have to do every moment of every day.
Yes. This is your teacher. This is your teacher's like saving grace every day.
Yep.
Period.
This is our bread and butter, and
you got short, medium, long term, incentives.
Yep. And of course, with quarantine and staying at home, that we're limited to the bigger options. We can't say like at the we'll go to the movies on Friday if you got all of this done.
Right.
But that said, incentives don't have to be big. They don't have to be expensive. You don't have to give them like a present. It could just be if you do XYZ, then you can have 5 minutes of extra iPad time, or you can have 5 minutes extra in your break, or you can have an extra dessert.
Right. And your big things could be even as simple as, and this is obviously dependent upon each person and each parent and each schedule, but if you're doing this and let's say you have Friday off, or you can say, hey, we can give you next Friday off if you are on schedule and you earn all of your XYZ, your stars, your check marks or whatever.
Absolutely.
Those things can be, or you can have a half day if you know that you have that time to devote to that, or The thing that I think is most important about an incentive or staying focused, you said it right in the beginning. It says important, and incentives don't have to be expensive or too involved. It has to be what they want. So the thing that they're craving, whatever it is, their thing. If your kid loves to play with their horse figurine all day long, then that's an incentive. That's something that they love. If they love playing computer games, then it's having computer time, to be able to play the computer, or Xbox, PlayStation 4, whatever it is. Like, those are the things that are incentives, and those are the things that you're going to get the most out of your individual person.
Right. And this could be a way even to introduce chores and give them the option to take chores away. So your chore now is to do dishes, but if you get your work done, or you get this many checks by the end of the week, then I'll do the dishes and you don't have to.
Ah, yeah. See, that's great. I love that stuff. Yeah, that's really good. And we do this too. I mean, again, I'm kind of comparing this to like as the person that's working from home or whatnot, but you can do this for yourself. What are the things that are important to you? Is it, hey, I'm going to give myself an extra hour of sleep if I get all of XYZ done, or if I complete my task list, as an individual. And I think that those rewards are important, and it's not always just the financial rewards or, you get to take care of your family, but you have to take care of yourself. And if we're all stuck at home too, these are important. It's, hey, if I work for the next 2 hours and get everything done, as a family, we can go for a walk around the block, or, just to take that time and to get some fresh air and to make room for the rest of the day.
Right. I know my brother does this with my nephew. They'll make a goal together. Like, I'm going to do this amount of time of work. Like, I'm going to sit and work for 10 minutes. You need to finish this worksheet. And then when we're done, I'll go play on the ninja line with you outside, or whatever game that he likes to play. My brother does it with him. Mm-hmm. So then, like you said, they have that family time, and you're spending time outside, and you're doing things together. And that way you as the adult also get a break.
Yep. And this is also a great way to introduce that, what do you call it? Forced choice?
Forced choice, yep.
Again, with incentives, if you know that it's like, well, if you know that they're like dying to go outside, and you can't go outside with them, so you can't let them out because you want to make sure they stay safe, all those different, things that are going on, offer those options. Do you want to go outside for a walk, or do you want to go bike around the block, or do you want to have PlayStation 4, or you can introduce those different things at this time as well. And this is what I loved with like setting up a check-in time. Your check-in times can be incentivized, right? So if they are able to set your visual timer for 5 to 10 minutes, if you have your timer set for 10 minutes, hey, when you reach 10 minutes, that's one check mark towards your ultimate goal. And Absolutely. That could be 10 check marks and you get 10 minutes extra. You can get creative with this as a parent and as a person, that's working with your children at home. Get creative. It's an easy way of we call that a duration chart. At least that's what we used to call it. Mm-hmm. And having those different things and know your student, know your kid, know your child, and what works best for them. If you make it too long, it may not hold their attention. So if you're having that trouble, adjust it and don't be stuck in your ways necessarily, but make sure that you're getting the most out of what you can do.
Right. With all of these tips, with the, check-in times and incentives and forced choice, you have to give them the opportunity to win at it first, so that they realize that it works and that you mean what you say and you say what you mean.
Yes.
So if you set an incentive that from jump is too hard for them to get, then they're not gonna try to get it the next time. So you kind of set it a little bit easier to start, and then of course you can make it more gradual as time goes on, and it doesn't need to be weeks. It could just be today you need to get 3 checks, tomorrow you need to get 4 checks, on Wednesday you need to get 5 checks, and you just kind of up it a little more each day, so that by the time it gets longer and you're not checking in with them as much and they're not checking in with you as much, because the goal for kids, and at least with us at school, is to make them independent.
Yeah, right.
And these are the little ways that you help them get there.
Yeah. I think you said something that's really huge and really important, and that's your consistency and your follow through. All of this is null and void if you don't honor that incentive. If you don't honor what you've set up and what you guys have agreed on, there has to be some flexibility. I get that, but honestly, like everything you're trying to do here and throughout these mean nothing if you're not going to follow through with what you're saying. So
exactly,
your follow through is huge.
And that's important to note when you're thinking of these things for the forced choice options. You don't want to say, do you want to do your homework, or do you want to make a pizza? Yeah. If you're not actually okay with making a pizza right now, or you're not going to be able to do it right now. Because, of course, you're going to be like, I want to make a pizza.
Right, yeah.
And you can't turn around and be like, actually, no, I'm not okay with that. Yeah. Do your homework.
I want to make a pizza right now. I mean, who wouldn't?
Right.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
So one of the easiest way to kind of marry step 1 in developing a schedule and step 4 for incentives is the way we do it in my classroom. Is they have their visual schedule, and there's just a little box right next to their schedule. We do numbers, so they can get a 0, a 1, or a 2, and that kind of helps with either getting a check or no check, because if you get no check, you feel like you failed and the whole day is over, and we do the point system for each box of their schedule. Yeah. And then we say, by the end of the day, you need to get 10 points to go to the treasure box or whatever it's going to be for home. Yeah. So that way if you're in reading time and
you may have offered 15 different ways for them to do it, but they only need to get 10 is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. So say your whole schedule is 15 blocks, so to speak.
Yeah.
You would set it for 8, maybe the first day.
Yeah.
And they need to get 8 points. And if they do everything that they need to do for that period of time, they get a 2. If they do none of it, and you really had to talk to them and kind of get stern, then they get a 0. They did it some of the time, they get a 1, but it helps with the all or nothing. If
Absolutely.
That's too,
and it's not necessarily a threat, right? I mean, I think this is something that like you see, like, well, if you don't do that, you're not gonna do blah 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 blah. Like, it's just knowing your consequences and knowing this is a consequence, positive and negative, to whatever you have set up. It's again that follow through and making sure you do it right. But it's you're not looking for perfection. You're looking for it's like you were saying with your classroom, that your ultimate goal is to be independent. So it's a piece of the whole.
Right. So it's a way for them to reflect, say, for reading worksheet time, you got a 0 because you kept coming into my meeting and asking me questions when I needed you to sit and focus on your work. Like, how are you going to fix it for math worksheet time? And then, the kids come up with ways that they're going to do better the next time.
Right. Yep, absolutely. I love it. Hit us with number 5.
Number 5 is the most important step.
I was going to say number 5 I'm glad I didn't take your thunder.
Number 5 is to be patient and kind to yourself as the adult. I can tell you how to do all of these things. You can ask your child's teacher how to do all of it. But when it comes down to it, you're not the teacher. And I say that with so much love and respect, because children treat the people in their lives differently, and they put them in buckets.
Yep.
So you are their parent.
It's a very hard transition. Yeah.
Right. You feed them, you do fun things with them, you love them, you take care of them. I am their teacher. I teach them. I also love them and take care of them in different ways. But now parents are having to take on some of the teacher's role, and it's kind of confusing for kids. Like, Mom, why are you telling me again? Why are you telling me that I have to do my homework? Or the number one thing that parents tell me they hear all the time, but that's not how Miss Vigo does it.
Right.
Or that's not how I learned it in school.
Yeah.
And then you as a parent are like, well, I don't know how you learned it in school.
I don't care. Do it my way.
Do it this way.
Yeah.
So it is a hard transition for kids, and it's a hard transition for adults. We're all learning kind of how to do this new normal for a little bit. So it's going to take time. And don't forget that teachers do all of this, and we set up the schedules, and we do the forced choice, and we do the incentives, but it takes us at least the first 2 months of school to figure all of that out.
Right.
Where we're troubleshooting, and the first schedules that we make up are not the schedules that stick. We have to figure out how to change it, and the durations have to change. Yeah. And so know that whatever schedule you come up with, you might have to tweak a little bit, or whatever incentives you come up with, or whatever check-in time or schedule or agreement that you and your child comes up with might have to change. So know that that is coming. Once you set things into place, you'll figure out how to make it work. But then also know that when you do figure out what's going to work, it's going to stick, and you'll get through it.
Absolutely. And, I mean, I was thinking about this as you were talking there. It's like, there is an end to this, we will overcome this for sure.
Right.
And, however, most of us are probably going to go straight into summer. So I know that looks a little different, but what better way to kind of set yourself up for success, as you kind of enter this ambiguous time, of what that's going to look like in the summer and what things are going to look like in the future. But what better way to set yourself up for success than to you literally utilize these 5 tips, and to set yourself up in a way that's more successful, and to always remember to be patient and to be kind to yourself and to the ones around you.
Yeah.
It's a new time for everybody, and it's going to be hard.
Yeah, it's okay to tell kids, I don't know.
Yeah.
The amount of times I say that in a day at school, you wouldn't believe, which I probably shouldn't be saying, but they ask really, really good questions, and I don't know the answer to them. Like, I was on the phone with one of my classroom parents, and I overheard my student in the background saying, when am I going to see you again? And I had to be like, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's an okay answer. I know I feel this, like, just as an individual, like, I don't ever want to not have an answer,
Right.
But sometimes I don't know is the best answer, and that is an answer.
I don't know is definitely better than saying something that you're not sure is gonna.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's true, and it's okay. It kind of humanizes us as adults as well, and you don't always have the answer, and it's okay.
It makes struggle and failure normal. It's okay if you're working on something with your student and you don't know how to answer it, and you say, you know what, I'm not sure how to do that. Let's figure it out together. Let's look up something on YouTube. Let's see. Yep.
Absolutely. I went ahead and pulled up your distance learning schedule, kind of the one you sent. Mm-hmm. It's also on the blog, so feel free to check that out. And it's kind of half day right up to lunch, and it's just an example. But do you want to read through them, or would you like me to read through them?
Yeah, I can read through them.
Cool.
So again, like you said, this is a sample schedule, so
times, what you're putting in there, all of that can change. It's just an example, but
because every teacher in every district and every school is what they're putting out is different. So I'm not sure that everyone's going to have reading computer time or reading worksheet time.
Right.
So, whatever it is. But,
well, and even the time allotments, we did a lot of like 20 on, 15 off, or, that kind of block kind of scheduling, or like or 20 on, 10 off, or whatever it is, to where you, like that, here's the task, here's the reward, and that kind of stuff as well. So.
Yeah. So first, of course, is whatever your family wake-up routine is, having breakfast, for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it's going to be. And then after that, can spend 15 minutes on morning chores, so making the bed, brushing their teeth, cleaning up breakfast, whatever that's going to be.
Yeah.
That is important, in my opinion, because that's the transition from waking up at home to now I'm transitioning to school at home.
Sure. Yep.
So then with that, you go into 45 minutes or so of reading, whatever that's going to look like for your student. And then there's a lot of these 15-minute breaks in the schedule, which it's just important to make sure you visually schedule a break. You can have more breaks within the academic blocks.
Yeah.
But just so you can always point to a break is coming.
Yeah. And the breaks, for example, the breaks are a lot of times your number 4 on the 5 checklist is incentive,
right?
Staying focused and completing your task. So it's a task completion, like reward, and you still need the breaks even if they don't get the reward. But that's where you're like long term, you're over the period of time where we were talking about, where if you have 15 options for them to gain that, maybe they didn't, earn that specific one for that, but in the long run, they're not getting what they want either. So,
right. Maybe in this break, they didn't earn the PlayStation break for 15 minutes,
right,
but they earned a coloring sheet, or they earned reading a magazine or something.
Right.
So it's still a break, but it's not the special one, or maybe it is the special one.
Maybe it is
if they earned it.
Right.
And then you can go into reading worksheets or whatever other reading activity they're doing for 30 minutes, then another break. Then you can go into math, computer time for 45 minutes or so. Then a break again. And then you do your math worksheets for 30 minutes. And then you can go into lunch. And then from there, you can decide as a family if they're going to finish up some of the stuff that they didn't finish in the morning, or if they're off for the day. I'm sure teachers also have their own little schedules that they're going to give out. Mm-hmm. But this is just, like we said, a sample one. What I like about it being visual is it keeps you on task as the adult, but it's also something to point to for when they do come in and say, like, what's next, or what do I do next?
I'm bored, I don't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just point to the schedule. And kids are still going to test you as the adult. Mm-hmm. You can set up all these things beautifully and give them everything they need and tell them exactly how to do it. And they're still going to find ways to test if whether or not you're serious, or whether or not this is going to work. And that goes to number 5 with being patient and kind to yourself, because that is coming. So when it does come, do not take it as failure. Actually, you should take it as like, man, I'm doing a good job because they're testing me right now.
Right, for sure. And another thing to add to that is, like, our kids are way smarter than we give them credit for sometimes. And, you know, they're asking questions, but don't be afraid to also ask them. Repeat it back to them. I don't know. What do you think? Let's check the calendar. What's it say? Those open-ended questions and allowing them to think independently and for themselves are really important. And it's a huge skill to not be dependent upon other people to find the answer, but to actually find it yourself.
Right. The last thing I kind of want to mention with the schedule and creating that independence is you have your day long or your morning long schedule, which is kind of this big one that we're referencing and that will be up on the blog. But then within that, let's say the 45-minute reading chunk, you might also want to make a little to-do list, and it could be on a Post-it, it could be on the dry erase board on your refrigerator, it could be on a loose leaf paper. It doesn't have to be colorful and involved, but you just make a little checklist of, within this 45 minutes, you need to read 5 pages of this book, you need to answer 2 questions on this worksheet, and you need to practice your spelling words or whatever. And then they check it off as they go, so that they also have a sense of time and knowing what they're doing in that block, so that they can't or alleviate some of that getting up and, well, what do I do next? And I already finished this, or this is hard. A lot of this is
I'm
hard.
bored of reading, and they've only read for 5 minutes. And
right. A lot of the this is hard, or I don't know how to do it, is really them saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And we get that. We do the same thing as adults.
Right.
It just looks different. But awesome. I love this. I think this is really going to be, you know, it's just good. Even if it's just something that people look at and pull 1 or 2 things from, I think it's important, and I think it's good. And, you know, I think it's just an example of us coming together as humanity and as people. And, man, it's a weird time. It's surreal at the moment, at least really for myself. You know, I personally, at this point in time, like, maybe I do, but I don't know of anybody that has it, you know, and I don't know what people are going through. I don't know what it's like, and none of us really do at this point in time, but it's important that we take the necessary steps to, you know, take care of one another and to be the best stewards that we can of this world and of the people around us. So listen to the CDC. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us, and I can always ask Monica, or you know, reach out to Monica if you have any questions. If you're with her, if you have, you know, your teachers are there and they're willing to help you and willing to aid you in whatever you might have questions about. So don't hesitate to reach out to your kids' teachers as well. And like you said, grab their schedule, or you know, I'm sure they have some different materials. And again, we're always open for suggestions here as well at CrazyFaceUno. So post your comment if you've got something to add, or you like something, or something's working for you. Let us know, and let other people know. Post on the post, or send us a message and let us know, because we want to pass that on as well.
Definitely.
Monica, do you have anything before we close things out?
I don't think so. Just make sure you guys are all taking care of yourself, and like I said, being patient and kind with yourself. Adults, make sure that you're in a good headspace and you're, resting and taking care of you, because if you're not taking care of you, then it's hard to take care of your kid. And I mean that with all the love in my heart. I know when I come to school with no sleep, I'm a monster. And you have to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Monica. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us these tips and some tricks and advice. I love it. If you have any more, please send it our way, and we'll make sure to use our platform to get it out to as many people as we can.
Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again, Monica.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, listen. Again, we're going to be donating 100% of our donations and sales on our online store at crazyfaceuno.com to aid in the recovery and just to help people that need it throughout this time with COVID-19. I don't have the details on that, but I will be working on that over the next several weeks, and we'll make sure that we have the proper and the right channels to donate to and the right places to go. So appreciate your help, appreciate your support and your love, and remember, we got this. We're in this together, and we've got this. We've got to take care of one another and yourself. So appreciate you all. Love ya. Peace.